The internet is full of heartwarming content. When you feel stressed, you can always watch videos of cute animals, including those featuring an internet favorite, cats. From funny videos of cats playing the piano to endearing videos of our feline friends interacting with their humans. For some reason, this particular animal has captured our hearts. But unfortunately, not all of the countless cat videos online are funny and heartwarming. Not everyone watching cat videos does so to relax or cheer themselves up. There is something much darker lurking in the corners of the internet that is unknown to the average person. Whole online communities dedicated to creating different kinds of cat videos, those involving torture. But who are these people? The answer may surprise you. This particular story is a difficult one to tell. It involves years of abuse, thousands of victims, and a system that looked the other way. Today, we're talking about Chinese cat abuse groups. Most people don't expect their lives to change because of one moment, an accident, a mistake that wasn't theirs, a day that starts normal and ends with everything feeling uncertain. When that happens, you're not thinking about lawsuits, you're thinking about pain, medical bills, how long recovery will take, and whether things will ever feel normal again. And in that space, a lot of people stay quiet. They don't ask questions. They don't push back. They assume the system will be fair. But that's rarely how it works. There's a reason you shouldn't hand your future to the same system calculating how much your pain costs them. Just like there's a reason you wouldn't trust your insurance company with your case. That doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. And no one should have to carry something this heavy alone. Fortunately, there are people whose entire purpose is to stand between regular families and systems that are built to wear them down. Morgan & Morgan exists for that reason. For more than 35 years, they have fought for the people with no upfront fees and the resources to take on powerful companies when it matters. And this isn't about promises. It's about knowing help is real. If you're ever injured due to someone else's negligence, you deserve to know your options. If you're ever looking for more information, you can check out Morgan & Morgan by going to forthepeople.com/Megan. Their fee is free unless they win. On the night of September 26, 2025, a resident of the Yangcheng Shijia complex at 633 Jingcheng Road in Shanghai's Jing'an district noticed something strange. A man was moving through the underground parking lot, glancing around like he was waiting for the right moment to act. Something about him felt off. So the resident decided to follow. The man made his way toward a darker corner of the lot, an area with no security cameras and little foot traffic. He was carrying equipment, a camera, a backpack, tools. When he stopped and began setting up, the resident realized what they were looking at. This wasn't someone taking photos of their car. The tools left at the scene told a different story. Hydraulic pliers, steel needles, scalpels, a blowtorch, a guillotine blade. This man had come prepared to hurt something. The resident recorded what he saw and posted it online. Within hours, the footage spread. And when people started digging into who this man was, what they found out about him seemed to be at odds with what they just witnessed. The torturer was an accomplished 29-year-old named Yao Yuan, a lawyer at a reputable firm in Shanghai's Jing'an district. On the surface, he looked like someone worthy of respect, educated, professional, composed. But Yao had another life. He had been torturing cats on camera for at least 8 years. Not much is known about his background, but what we do know about him is that by 2017, when he was barely into his 20s, he was already posting torture videos online under the alias Cat Chinese Doctor. Criminologists have theories about people like this. They talk about their complete absence of empathy, their need for control over something weaker than themselves, and the pleasure they derive from the suffering of innocent animals. Professor Sun Shijin at Fudan University Psychology Research Center had said that people who torture animals typically lack love in their early lives, may have experienced domestic violence, and as a result, becoming psychologically twisted, taking out their frustrations on weaker beings. But whether any of that applies to Yao, we can't say. He's never spoken publicly about his actions. According to research by local animal protection volunteers, Yao had produced and sold more than 300 cat torture videos since 2017. But the number of videos doesn't communicate the full horror of this story. It's estimated that he had around 4,000 feline victims, kittens just a few weeks old, full-grown adults, pregnant strays. It didn't matter. And he obtained them using a disturbingly simple method. In China, like in many countries, animal shelters typically have adoption procedures, interviews, paperwork, sometimes home visits. Yao would visit these shelters, posing as a kind, educated man looking to give a cat a new home. But whenever he learned there would be any real vetting, he'd back out and look elsewhere, because there was an easier way. People often rescue stray cats and post the animals for adoption informally on social media, platforms like Weibo or WeChat. If you see a kitten you like, you can message the person and they'll hand it over. No interviews, no follow-up, no way to know what happens next. And Yao exploited this system over and over again. And when that wasn't enough, he'd go out with a backpack and hunt for strays himself. Sometimes he found groups of abandoned cats. Sometimes he set up traps. Whatever it took to meet the demand, because there was a demand. Yao wasn't working alone. He ran multiple groups online, but two of his most prominent were called Cat Chinese Dr. Conrad and Caddis Cook. Both operated on Telegram. With encrypted messaging and the ability to stay anonymous, Telegram has become the go-to platform for people who want to share legal content without being traced. And the content shown in these groups was brutal. After Yao's actions became public and his accounts were exposed, people who saw the footage struggled to describe it. Videos showed kittens being fed into meat grinders while still alive, cats impaled with metal rods, crude cesarean sections performed on pregnant strays without any sedation, kittens injected with industrial expanding foam until their bodies ruptured, electric shocks, starvation, skinning, blowtorches used on the animals while they were still conscious and screaming. Yao had a routine. Before each session, he'd post photos of the cats while they were still alive. Group members would then submit requests. They'd suggest methods of torture. They'd bet on how the animals would die. And then Yao would deliver. The videos were sold within the group. The customer base wasn't just local. Members came from multiple countries. Tens of thousands of yuan reportedly flowed through these networks on a near-daily basis. What started as a perverse form of entertainment had become commerce. When the volunteers identified Yao and went public with his information, they decided to visit his family's home. They weren't looking for a confrontation. They wanted answers, more information about the operation, maybe something that could help them build a case against him. And what they got instead was violence. Yao's father came at them with a set of keys, swinging at their faces while screaming at them to leave. One volunteer took a direct hit to the head and sustained a wound serious enough to require over a dozen stitches. His mother was screaming too, telling them to leave her son alone. When she noticed one of the volunteers recording, she grabbed their phone and smashed it on the ground. And Yao, he was still inside the house, smoking. At some point during this chaos, he grabbed a female volunteer and tried to burn her with his cigarette. Police arrived just in time to pull her away, but here's where the story takes a turn that's hard to accept. Law enforcement stepped onto the scene and achieved nothing. Yao claimed the phone he used to record and upload the videos, the phone with all the evidence, had been lost. And without it, there was nothing for investigators to examine. And because the content had been shared on Telegram, an overseas platform, authorities said they couldn't track or verify it. Yao was free. The volunteers had his name. They had the names of his groups. They had descriptions of the content. And still, the police failed to open a case. And within days, posts about Yao began disappearing from Chinese social media, censored, removed. Out of desperation, volunteers turned to international platforms, Facebook, Instagram, X, hoping to keep the information available. Eventually, Yao was taken into police custody, but not for animal cruelty. In his post, Yao had created degrading nicknames for politicians and used those nicknames for the cats that he tortured. And that was considered an insult to the Chinese Communist Party. And that is what got him arrested. But Yao was never the only person creating this kind of content. There are plenty of people in China making such videos for domestic and international viewers. But why is this kind of content so prolific in China? Well, China has virtually no animal cruelty laws. If someone hurts a pet, the owner can potentially sue for property damage because legally, a pet is considered property. But Yao and people like him don't target pets, they target strays. And strays don't belong to anyone, which means, under current laws, hurting them isn't a crime. A law proposing jail time for animal cruelty has been discussed, but it hasn't passed. General ambivalence and a lack of political will have stalled its progress. So while the government moves quickly to censor political speech and pornography, content showing animals being tortured to death circulates with little interference. Yao was fired from his law firm on September 29, 2025, just days after the information about his activities went public. The firm acknowledged his involvement and publicly condemned his behavior, but beyond losing his job, Yao faced no real consequences for what he did to those animals. And he's far from the only one. An account on X called Abuser Database exists for one reason: to expose animal abusers. The people running it have learned that they cannot rely on the authorities, and so they document case after case. And the perpetrators are from all walks of life: teachers, office workers, university students, even police officers. One was filmed repeatedly throwing a kitten while venting his anger. Another case went viral when a man named Li, an office worker in Suzhou, was beaten by a group of strangers in broad daylight. The video spread online, and police announced that they would investigate. But then the context emerged. Li had been exposed as an animal abuser. Like Yao, he'd adopted cats from shelters, promised them good homes, and tortured them on camera. Someone outside of China eventually found his videos and traced them back to him. When they discovered he was planning to adopt yet another kitten, this time at a commercial plaza, they posted about it online, tagging cat welfare groups across the country. On February 25th, 2023, 6 people showed up to meet him. They confronted Li in the plaza, screaming at him, and then they dragged him somewhere quieter and started throwing punches and kicks. They forced him to slap himself. When he didn't do it hard enough, they hit him with objects. 2 people held him down while the others made him kneel and confess. According to some accounts, the group had come prepared. They'd brought feces and smeared it on his face. Some reports say they forced him to eat it. In one video that circulated afterward, Lee can be heard admitting to killing 5 cats. He said he'd planned to kill the kitten he was there to pick up that day. The assault lasted through the night. Lee ended up with cuts, bruises, and blood on his face. Some assumed the attackers were members of the Suzhou Small Animal Protection Volunteers Association. The group later denied any involvement. They condemned Lee's actions, they said, but they wouldn't have gone that far. That retribution was a rare case. Most of these abusers face very small consequences. In 2020, a university student was doxxed after torturing 80 cats. That same year, a security guard in Taiyuan poured boiling water on a caged pregnant cat, killing her and her 4 unborn kittens. His only punishment was losing his job. In 2024, multiple stray cats in Hangzhou were found shot with steel blow darts, including a kitten with 10 darts embedded in its body. The suspect, reportedly the son of a shipping company executive, faced no charges, again because strays aren't protected under Chinese law. Then there's Xu Zhihui. This man, better known online as Jack Latiao, became notorious after footage surfaced of him torturing a cat in a forest, tying it to a tree, stabbing it with metal skewers, burning it, and dismembering it while it was still alive. He was detained for about 2 weeks in April 2023, then released. He issued a public apology that no one believed, and within days, he was reportedly back online, live streaming more abuse. His Good Person of Hunan Award, given to him for the unrelated act of returning a soldier's remains to his family, was revoked, but he faced no further legal consequences. Reports suggest he remains active, with his network continuing to operate under different names. In 2024, an animal rights organization called Feline Guardians started tracking the volume of cat torture content coming out of China. In June of that year, a new video appeared roughly every 14 hours. By February 2025, that number had changed drastically, with a new video being uploaded every 2 hours and 38 minutes. That's a 4-fold increase in less than a year. In the first 2 months of 2025 alone, more than 500 videos were uploaded. They documented the torture and killings of over 300 cats. And those are only the ones the group was able to identify. The real number is estimated to be at least twice that. Criminologist Jenny Edwards has studied people who create and consume this type of content. She describes a common trait among these people: sexual sadism, a condition in which a person derives sexual pleasure from another suffering. Some are also drawn to the feeling of dominance, the sense of power that comes from controlling something smaller and weaker. CNN interviewed one consumer who was willing to talk. He described it as a fetish he couldn't quit. Over time, he said, it escalated. He started seeking out more extreme content. Eventually, he was paying money so that administrators would torture animals in specific ways, methods he personally requested. People who run these groups understand their audience. They know what keeps them paying. A Chinese volunteer for Feline Guardians spent a month undercover inside one of the larger Telegram groups. He used the pseudonym Chen. To get in, he had to pay an entry fee. The group was encrypted, anonymous, and organized. Admins would post screenshots from torture sessions alongside photos of the cats while they were still alive. Members celebrated the posts. A culture had developed inside the group. Members would compete to suggest the most extreme torture methods. If someone came up with something brutal enough, they'd be celebrated. Chen had infiltrated and helped shut down multiple groups, but the psychological toll never got easier. He said he often cried after interacting with the members. The age range disturbed him most: elementary school children, teenagers, middle-aged professionals, elderly retirees. There's a question that animal welfare advocates have been asking about the people who participate in the creation of these videos. What's next? What happens when someone who enjoys torturing animals gets bored of it? Do they stop, or do they look for something else? Research into violent offenders have shown a well-documented link between animal cruelty and later violence against humans. It's not a guaranteed progression, but it's a pattern that appears again and again. And right now in China, there's nothing in place to stop the torture of stray animals. One law protects wild animals. Strays aren't covered. And the draft bill proposing penalties for animal cruelty has stalled. There's nothing to stop these perpetrators. So the groups continue operating, the videos keep circulating, and the people making them remain free. But laws do work. In countries with strong animal protection statutes, the UK, Germany, Australia, parts of the United States, abusers face real prison time. Platforms are legally pressured to remove content. Registries track offenders. The behavior doesn't disappear, but it's driven underground and reduced significantly. International pressure matters too. When CNN published its investigation into cat torture videos and the China-based perpetrators in May 2025, it triggered more action in 1 week than years of local advocacy. Platforms like YouTube removed channels with hundreds of torture videos. Telegram faced renewed calls for accountability. Global protests were held in more than 20 cities. Shame, it turns out, is a stronger motivator than justice. For now, the only real tool available is public awareness. People like Chen going undercover at great personal cost. Volunteers documenting abusers one by one. Online communities sharing information across borders when their own governments won't act. You don't have to like cats, but they're living creatures facing unimaginable pain and cruelty at the hands of disturbed individuals. And these individuals hide in anonymous networks in which torture is organized and monetized, protected from persecution by legal loopholes and general indifference. So if you see something, report it. If you can spread awareness, do it. These animals cannot protect themselves. That is all for today. Thanks for watching.